Hello everyone, buenos dias, bon dia, and welcome back to another episode of Overcoming Graduation with Brian Drury, a show where I work to teach you everything I wished I'd known about habits and mindset to help you begin creating your dream life today. Today is another installment of the Morning Commute, where I take my ride to work in the morning to share a short but powerful message with you to help you kick your day off on the right foot. And today's message is this: share it. One of my favorite stories from one of my favorite speakers, Lisa Nichols, is when she tells about a conversation she had with her grandma. And her grandma was super supportive and still is to this day, one of the biggest influences in her life. And she said, one day, Grandma, I want to be a professional speaker. And she said, well, you should write down some of your ideas. And so she got all excited. She got this notebook. She started filling up the notebook, and then she'd tear out the pages and run over to her grandma and be like, Grandma, look. And her grandma would get all excited and proud, take those speeches, and then put them in a folder. And then she'd write another one, and she'd run back to her grandma, and she'd say, Grandma, look. And her grandma would go, this is beautiful, baby. And she'd put it in a folder. And she did this over and over and over. And she goes, eventually, she came back with another speech. And her grandma said, oh, baby, this is beautiful. But you said you want to be a speaker, right? And she goes, yes, of course, Grandma, really, really badly. And she goes, well, don't you think you should start sharing these messages with more people than just Grandma? This message popped up for me today because I was thinking about this podcast, in that I've been banking a bunch of episodes recently, and not even sure when this particular episode will air in that sequence, but I was like, you know what, let me get ready, let me build up a stock, let me get a bunch in the bank, that way I can edit a bunch all at once and have several months laid out in front of me, set to go, which has always been the fantasy for me, of having a several month cushion and buffer of episodes and automation, like everything's just done and ready to rock, and then I only got to do a week or two at a time. That's always been something I have strived for, I have achieved, and let me say loosely strived for. I have achieved occasionally or periodically or for a short time. It's not something that I have done a good job being consistent on, to the point where I have something that works, that rolls, that continues, and where I really have that buffer built out so that I can adjust when I have vacation or something comes up. And as I was thinking, what do I want today's message to be, I was thinking about that message, because I have been banking a ton of episodes, a ton. And I'm not even sure how many it is at this point, because I've just been recording. Because for the early part of this year, what I decided I was going to do was take a few months just to get truly settled in, to get locked in here. Because since making the move to California, there were steps I hadn't taken yet. And even something as simple as setting up a business bank account is not so simple in California, I learned. You've got to register your business. But in order to register your business with the state, you need a certificate of good standing. Oh, and in order to get a certificate of good standing, then you need to contact the state where your business is filed in. And then you're a foreign entity in California. So now you need to, the LLC 5 form. And it was like thing after thing after thing. And I was like, damn, thank God I took 2 months for this. But it still took even longer than that, because there are forms to file and there are all these different steps. And I said, okay. And as I'm working to establish and grow this business, so establish out here in California and continue to grow and evolve what I do, I still am working to live my life, because the best content comes from a life well lived. And that doesn't mean perfectly lived. That means a life lived with ambition, with drive, with trying, with failing, with ups and downs. Like, that's where the lessons come. It's not from just sitting in the car recording these messages. It's from actually getting out and experiencing and reading and diving into life and talking with people. It's like, that's the real experience. And what has become so much clearer for me is that even there comes a point where even the productive activity of preparing a podcast or writing a book can become a procrastination, when it's more comfortable to just create with no one ever seeing it than it is to create and show it to the world. When it is to create and potentially fail again. When it is to create and commit to a schedule and then fail to adhere to that schedule. it's almost like that's easier. And so pushing it off and then using, well, I have other priorities right now as an excuse. I said I was going to focus on this, and I said I was going to focus on that. And I'm like, yeah, but the podcast is really the platform for my business right now. So how can I create that equilibrium? Because I know there are ways for me to set podcasts to publish without taking a significant amount of time, especially compared to what it used to, and be able to do the other things which are required for my business to grow and for me to start to expand, both speaking and coaching. So I know it's not a matter of time. And I know that that excuse never is true, because it's always just a matter of prioritization. So with the free time I have, how could I be allocating it more effectively? Because you may have something you want to share. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't go beyond the fantasy. They don't do anything past, man, wouldn't it be cool to one day blank? I mean, think about it right now for you. Man, wouldn't it be amazing one day to share blank with people? It doesn't have to be the world. Doesn't it? Like, oftentimes we do these grandiose things where I was like, I want to share this message with the world, and I want to share this with, and maybe you do, but it starts with one person. It starts with one blog post. It starts with one page written, but eventually you got to publish the book. I don't have the money at the time. Self-publish, easy. Oh, but I don't know about that. Then I have to do marketing promotion. Learn how. It's like it comes to these things where at first it's like just get the message you have out there that's going to be beneficial to society and to other human beings. Put it out there in whatever format best suits you. Nowadays, if you have a cell phone, you can record video, you can record, that's how I record these as I'm driving. Literally on my cell phone voice memos app. That's it. It's nothing fancy. So you can record audio, you can record video, you can write blogs, you can write books, you can do any number of a combination of these things. You can be on TV, it's limitless, really. But we get so caught up in sometimes just doing the activity and the fantasy that we forget that we were actually working towards doing something specific, something real. So it's important, as you're building towards your dream, to remember that, as you're laying your foundation, eventually you want that home to be lived in. So, unfortunately, like I said, most people don't take the first step, but some do. Some have been toying with that book or playing with it or fiddling with it forever. Some people have been recording podcast episodes. I'm not raising my hand here or anything, guys. Okay, I am. I literally am. You can't see it, but I did. Some people have been editing that video for 6 months because they're trying to get everything quote-unquote perfect, but they know it'll never get there. And trying to get it perfect is just a way to avoid putting it out there and having it potentially be criticized. There's a difference between, hey, I just like working on this and it's for me, and I don't want to put it out, and I don't want to sell it, I don't want to monetize it, I don't need to. Versus, I really want to get this out there, but I'm just afraid. So when I catch myself getting caught up in these same types of things where I'm like, I don't know, I need more time, I've got other things I need to do, and it's like, okay, in some ways that's true. Like, yes, I need to file my taxes before the April 15th deadline. It's like, but outside of that, okay, Brian, as you're working on these things, if you're going to be a solopreneur, you're going to have to find ways to balance multiple activities that are different. There's going to be competing priorities. So how do you prioritize effectively and to continue to do the things you love within this business to help people? It's the whole reason I built this. It's helping. It started with helping myself overcome the challenges, the mindset battles, the limiting beliefs, and it continues to be that as I grow and go deeper and deeper in the journey. But it always started with, like, I want to work on myself to help others. I want my evolution to serve others. I want my learnings to be shared with others. And as I continue to do that, incredible things happen. And even with all the positive evidence, there can still be times where I hold myself back. Even after doing this for years, I still feel resistance. I still feel worries. I still feel doubts. So don't expect to not feel the doubt. Don't expect to not feel any type of resistance. Just find a way to overcome it, even just a little bit. Because you don't need to worry about putting up a whole website and doing this whole shebang. Maybe you just share your first post on Facebook about something you really care about. Maybe you record a live video doing it. Maybe you record just a regular video doing it. Doesn't need to be fancy. Doesn't need to be big. Doesn't need to be grandiose. Just think about how you could serve one person today with something you know that could bring more light, more joy, more peace, more happiness, more clarity, more honesty to this world. Simplify it down to one person, and I guarantee right now you've got multiple things you could share that could be beneficial. And if you still have that doubt in your head going, no, I can't, I won't, you really haven't dug in to any of these things yet, that you're like, man, I'm really curious about that. Well, now's the time to go on Google. Search. Send me an email. There is pretty much nothing I haven't read something on yet, whether in an audiobook or in an actual book format or heard in a podcast or a speech. So if you're out there listening, you're like, listen, I really want to get started in X, but I have no idea what's a good book to start reading. Google's your first bet. But if you really are curious and want some recommendations, I know some phenomenal game-changing books. So, guys, as we wrap up for today, and as this Escalade comes to an extremely slow stop on a busy street in front of me, let's wrap up with this. Where in your life are you overbuilding your foundation? Where in your life are you just putting more and more entries into that journal, into that folder, but never sharing that folder with all the people that you intended it to benefit? And what is one step you could take today in order to help get that message out, to share it with more people, to help it reach more people? And by more, I mean, let's start with one. All right, guys, if you have not already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. And if you'd like to reach out to me directly to talk about what we talked about before, ask about a book recommendation, send me some feedback on the show, recommend an interviewee, I'd love to hear from you at brian@overcominggraduation.com. That's Brian with an I, B-R-I-A-N, at overcominggraduation.com. I love you guys. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for being a part of this. And thank you for being patient through the ups and downs, because God knows life has been crazy in the several years I've been doing this podcast. So it's been learning, growing, sharing more and more. And I'm excited to continue on this journey with you all and share as much as I can. So I love you guys. Have a great day. Go kick some ass.